Welcome, everyone, to the Beards and Babble podcast. Today we're speaking of nerdy things. Like computers and technology. I don't know why that's the voice I think of when I think of people who are really into these sorts of things we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, there's a lot of offended people right now that are
There's
really
probably
into.
Okay, so I'll say this: there's nerdy people that are really into the stuff we're talking about today, like blockchain and crypto, but there's also a lot of dude bros that are into it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because it's a way that you can make money quick, and so any place where you can make money quick is a space where dude bros abide. Like, brah.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird intersection of people that are interested in cryptocurrencies.
Yes, it is.
You're right. Now, would you identify more as a nerd or more as a dude bro? Which, if you had to pick one of those?
I think if I had to hang out with a group of one of those, I would. See, that's a tough call because, like, there's a part of me that would get super, super annoyed by the dude bros and just be like, you guys are a bunch of idiots and want to go hang out with nerds and talk about nerdy stuff. But then when, like, I don't know, like a sporting event came on, I would be like, man, I really love to watch that, and nerds don't really care about that, but dude bros do. But then I don't know. I always felt like I had like one foot in both worlds, you know? Like I always hung out with a bunch of, not necessarily nerds, but a lot of artists because I was on a cello scholarship in college. I played music. But then like I could only hang out with those people for so long because I was like, yeah, I want to like watch sports and talk about hunting and stuff like that. So I always kind of had a foot in both worlds. I don't know.
Yeah.
How about you?
You can only play so much Pokemon Go before it gets old. No, I think that's good. It's like you're a well-rounded man. You're a Renaissance man. Its truest form, where you're like.
But, would you be more dude bro or nerd? What would you consider yourself?
I don't even know what a dude bro is. It's just.
All right, so let's
what
define
is it?
Dude bro.
Maybe that makes me a dude bro.
All right. So
Dude,
when I think
bro.
dude bro, I'm still stuck in like 2007, 2006.
Yeah.
So that would be a guy that probably pops his collar when he goes out to eat at Chili's with his mom and dad on vacation.
Yeah.
He probably listened to a lot of Jack Johnson and Jason Mraz. But again, we're stuck in around 2007. Like a 2022 dude bro probably has an Instagram where he records motivational videos of himself. You know?
Yeah,
Like-
that would be
like-
problematic. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's, like early in the morning, like before he goes to CrossFit, he's like, let's get up and rise and grind. Let's get that bread today, guys.
Yeah, how to
You know?
scale up your business and
Yeah,
while flipping over tractor tires and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
The same kind of guys that you'll see like in coffee shop and they're drinking that really fancy water that looks like an energy drink, also looks like a malt liquor, but it's actually just water. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, there's a
those are
lot
dude
of
bros.
anybody who drinks mineral water on a regular basis. I'm just kidding. There's some people who I tease about drinking mineral water.
That's me.
It's such a funny phenomenon. How did we get on this topic about dude bros?
We were
So
talking crypto because this is what we're talking about
Yeah.
today.
Okay, that's right. So dude bro he's gonna be checking his crypto balance while dragging cinder blocks with a rope behind him in the CrossFit gym. And he's doing day trading while living in a van in his mom's driveway. That's a dude bro?
Probably. That's a dude bro, yeah.
And he likes the Predators and wears hockey jerseys. And
No, he doesn't. It's just- if you're watching on YouTube, Gabe's giving me a hard time. I'm wearing a Nashville Predators hoodie. And as soon as we hopped on today, he's like, what are you wearing? What is that? Is it saber-toothed tiger? I was like, dude, this is the Predators. He's like, what is that, hockey? And then I asked a question I already knew the answer to. I was like, do you guys have hockey teams in Alabama? And of course I know the answer to that because if it ain't football, it ain't sports.
Yeah. I regularly get caught up in football conversations at work, and I just have I have no idea what's going on. I just talk about, I like awkwardly interject about the weather here and there, yeah.
Hey, next time that happens, if you want to just call me,
Mm-hmm.
and you can have your Bluetooth in your ear, and I can hear what those guys are saying, and I will give you things to say.
Yeah, it's a whole other language. I don't understand it.
Yeah,
so
it's okay. All you need to know is Rotad in Alabama. You'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was at Auburn University's campus this past weekend. I went to Auburn University.
Were you?
Yeah, I walked around the campus. I saw their football stadium. It's quite lovely.
Dude.
Yeah, it was a nice campus.
That's pretty cool.
It's really pretty.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, so as you probably picked up on today, we're not talking about Auburn University and their new coach, Hugh Freeze. Although we could do an episode on that and the problematic past that Hugh Freeze brings to the culture of Auburn University. But we'll talk about that another time. That's for my other podcast.
We should do a Gabe sports quiz one time and just give me a sports quiz, and all the listeners that like this like organized sports just go. Okay.
Who won the World Series this year?
World Series. I know that is not football. That is probably soccer. Yeah, that's soccer, right?
Nah, not soccer.
It's not soccer. No, World Cup is soccer. That's right.
World Cup is soccer. Who won the World Series?
World Series must be baseball then, right?
Yes, you are correct.
Because that's the next one I'm going to guess.
Do you know at all?
I could not.
You can't use Google. Come on.
If someone put a gun to my head right now, I could not tell you the correct answer. World Series.
It was the Houston Astros, but
okay. Yeah, that would have been.
Yeah.
Are they?
If you don't even know what the World Series is, chances are you're probably not going to pick the Houston Astros. I should have done that. So anyway,
give me another one real fast. Just give me another one.
Okay. Man, I'm trying to think of if you.
I got to redeem myself.
Who won the World Series? Yeah. Let's see. Who won the Super Bowl this past year?
Super Bowl usually happens in the fall, right? Or winter?
No. It usually happens in January, February. So.
Okay.
This January, February.
The last time I followed the Super Bowl was when the Atlanta Falcons won, I think. Did the Atlanta Falcons win?
The Falcons have never won the Super Bowl.
What? They went to the Super Bowl, right?
Yes, they went to the Super Bowl and they lost
Patriots?
Terribly.
Did they play the Patriots?
They played the Patriots, yeah.
Okay. That was 2016.
2017.
So.
Yeah.
All right, I will not be redeeming myself today in sports.
I was about to say, yeah. Okay. He is 0 for 2 in the sports quiz.
Let's move on.
I think that should be a regular Beards and Bible just to give some good laughs for our listeners.
Yeah, I'm willing to be the butt of all of that laughter.
That's good. Well, what we do know is that Gabe is not a dude, bro. And, that's a good thing. That's a commendable thing. So we're talking about crypto today, cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, blockchain, all the other phrases that maybe you have heard thrown around. But if I'm being completely honest, and I think if a lot of people are being completely honest, we've heard these phrases, but for the most part, we don't really know how this thing called crypto works, most of us. And so today what we're going to do is kind of try to make sense of this whole thing called cryptocurrency. Ask questions that maybe you're too embarrassed to ask out loud when you hear Dude Bros talk about their crypto wallet. And hopefully get to a place of okay, what does this mean about the future of money? What does this mean about the global economy? And if you're a follower of Jesus, is it wise for you to invest in or participate in this thing called cryptocurrency? And try to figure that out. But before we do, let me just say this before we hop in. We have this episode, and then it's going to be the end of the year, and then we have, like we do the previous years, we're going to do a From the Mailbag episode where we're answering questions that anybody has. And so if you have questions related to any of the topics that we have talked about over the past year, or any topic that maybe you can think of, and you want answers to that, send us an email, beardsandbible@gmail.com, or reach out to us via the Facebook page, and we'll start putting those questions together for our New Year's episode on that.
That'll be really fun.
So.
Or, yeah, if you suspect you're a dude bro and you want some clarification and help from us identifying whether or not you are.
Yeah. We will give you the dude bro test. So, anyway, yeah, it's going to be fun. Looking forward to that episode. Those are always fun. So, send us your questions, and we'll start compiling that. So, cool. But before we get going on crypto, I think a good question maybe to ask, to sort of open this topic up, is, Gabe, why is money valuable? Like any form of currency valuable? Like if I have $1 and I give you that $1, it's just a piece of paper. Yeah. Why does that have value?
Simply put, just because we agree that it has value. It has no value other than that. It's just a Federal Reserve note that used to be backed by real tangible gold, but is no longer. So yeah, it's all fiat, as they say.
So even gold, like why would we agree that this one particular? So you could go to a mine, and you pull out a rock, and it's iron pyrite, and that's what they call fool's gold. It's not really gold. And then there's actual gold. One of those is more valuable than the other, but why?
Because it's shiny. I don't know.
One's
because
shiny, one's not.
It's hard to find and it's shiny. Come on. No, that's it. I mean, there's not a whole lot of really practical. It's silver. I could see it's shiny. It's rare. It's hard to find at least, but it has a lot of practical uses. It didn't back in the day for some reason. They thought silver was still valuable back then, but now it's like silver at least is a ultra conductor of electricity and is used in all kinds of different applications. So I could make sense. Silver is right. It could be a basis of currency, but gold and I don't know, man. It's just shiny. It's hard to find. Look good on my lady finger.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, I mean, if you start really asking this question, why do we put value in anything, even diamonds, right? None of those things, none of these shiny metals we find in the ground have any value in and of themselves. They're basically just something that we agree, yep, that's valuable. I can use that to barter for goods. And it's the same thing with paper money. And it's actually the same thing with this thing called cryptocurrency. And so if you are like, okay, I have no idea what cryptocurrency is. You guys keep throwing out the word cryptocurrency. Have no fear. We'll start from the very beginning. I actually went to dummies.com. I'm not calling you a dummy. I'm calling myself a dummy. You know those books for dummies? Like Blank for Dummies?
Yeah.
There's one called Cryptocurrency for Dummies. Yeah, and I think it's helpful. Because there's probably a lot of people listening that truthfully don't understand this.
Yeah.
And are too embarrassed to ask. And truthfully, that there's a lot of things about crypto that I'm still trying to wrap my brain around to try to figure out. I called my buddy David Fannin yesterday to try to get some explanation on blockchain because he works in that space. He works with blockchain. And behold, he never called me back. And he said he would. So, David, if you're listening, I'm kind of bitter and hurt right now. But
that's a dude bro move right there.
That is a dude bro move. If you know David Fannin, he's not a dude bro at all. But anyway. Okay. So, what is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is a form of digital money. So, if you have a dollar bill, that is a form of paper money. Cryptocurrency is digital. So you can transfer it. And a lot of people, I have online banking. That's how I do most of my banking. And so if I'm paying, a medical bill or I'm paying my mortgage, I can do that online, right? I can move it from my online bank account to any of that. But that's not exactly how cryptocurrency works. What sets cryptocurrencies apart is the technology behind them. And so, for traditional currencies, there's, in most cases, middlemen like banks and brokers that are kind of taking a cut of the process for transfers. And so transfers often get expensive and slow. And there's a lot of people who don't have bank accounts. That's something I didn't realize as I was researching this. Approximately 3 billion people don't have bank accounts in the world. That's like half the population of the planet. Which is super interesting because I'm like, oh, okay, I thought everybody did, but no, a lot of people don't. So you don't have to have a bank account to be in the world of crypto, and so that's one benefit. At least that's what some people have suggested. So then the big question is, okay, how do you set this value, right? I mean, you've got this basically screen that says you have X number of this currency. Okay, well, what makes that valuable? Well, just like anything else, enough people have to agree that this is valuable, and this will remain valuable. Merchants have to accept it as a form of payment, and enough people have to have it to, say, okay, I'll trade you this for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think in the old days, like the exchange materials that people used were kind of inherent to their nature. So I had some chicken and you had shoes, and I needed shoes and you needed chicken. And I said, well, I'll give you this chicken for some shoes, right? But then coins, cash, silver, gold, and then later credit cards and things like that came into play. Kind of this definition of money has really changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even like we think about all these detective movies where somebody has like a duffel bag full of $50,000 worth of $100 bills or something, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's just not practical. So credit cards and checks and all that stuff, those kind of made it more practical to transfer money, especially in large amounts. But then the government sort of stepped in, and the World Bank kind of stepped in, and things like that. And so regulations started getting pretty stringent on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so crypto is really an attempt to try to curb that. Is that making sense so far?
Yeah. So it's basically like all these transactions that are happening around and outside of the parameters of central authorities and control that governments typically, like taxation and all that stuff as well. So, yeah, it like bypasses all of that. It doesn't, it doesn't fully explain like what cryptocurrencies are. And the best explanation I heard from someone was that cryptocurrencies are the byproduct of computers solving algorithms that are being solved nonstop through people, whether shopping on Amazon or using social media. So basically, these miners, they're like these computers that are solving these algorithmic problems constantly. They're producing like a byproduct basically. So it's interesting. It's all based on the access to information, the potential access to information. So one time when I was in Uganda, I didn't have any cash on me, like any shillings on me. And I needed a ride about 2 miles away, and I hopped on what they call Pichi Pichi, which is like a little motorcycle boda.
Boda, yeah.
Yeah, and I got on one of these, and before I got on it, I told the guy, well, maybe I didn't realize at the time I didn't have any shillings, but we rode the 2 miles to my destination. I got off, and then maybe I came to the realization I didn't have any shillings on me. And I was a little bit alarmed. I was like, oh, man. And he goes, well, do you have MBs? And I was like, what? MBs? And he's like, do you have MBs on your phone? And I was like, oh, like data. Like I, in Uganda, you prepay for data and you load it onto your phone. So you can buy, 1 gig, and that obviously has 1,000 MBs. And I said, oh, yeah, I do have MBs. And he goes, well, give me 500 MBs. So I paid him for this 2-mile Boda ride using the potential to access information. And I transferred it from my phone to his phone. He gave me his phone number and we went through the steps, and I transferred 500 MBs onto his phone so that I don't know what he's going to do with it. He might just watch TikTok videos for a couple minutes. I have no idea.
But you got ripped off because a 2-mile ride is not worth that. So just saying.
Well, I just didn't want to get beat down by this buff Boda ride. But so that was interesting because like, oh, that's kind of like cryptocurrency. It's like it's producing this thing of value because a space is being created whereby someone accesses information. I don't know if that makes sense, but
yeah. We'll get into the mining aspect of it. I think that's part of it where it starts getting a little bit eyebrow raising and confusing. We talk about data mining and how cryptocurrencies are essentially created. But the whole point, I guess, behind crypto is to try to have a type of currency that's not regulated by banks.
Yeah.
And that's easy to transfer, and that it's in the hands of the people to set the value. It's not in the hands of basically governments to set the value, right? That's kind of the hope behind it. And so because of cryptocurrency, normal government-backed currency like the US dollar, the Ugandan shilling, the English pound, the euro, that has to now go by a fancy name. And you said it earlier in the podcast, fiat currency, which just sounds super fancy. So like legal tender, like coins and banknotes, that only has value because the government says it has value, right? But cryptocurrency isn't the same because there's no central authority like a government body to manage its value. And really the main theory behind it is that if enough people agree that this cryptocurrency is valuable, then it's valuable. Right?
Yeah.
So when did this become a thing? Well, the first ever crypto, and probably it remains the most popular currency, is Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin was the first crypto to come out, and there was someone that released it, and actually this person, we don't actually know the name of this person. This was an anonymous entity, and let's see if I can say this. It's Satoshi Nakamoto. I just think of that Saturday Night Live skit where Chris Farley's on a Japanese game show. And he doesn't speak Japanese. And he's like, Kwaki Serpi Niku. Kwaki Serpi Niku.
Is that the one where they make them stab their hand if they get the answer wrong?
Yeah. I don't speak Japanese.
Is he from Wisconsin or something?
He's, Rory Templeton from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Anyway, so Satoshi, I think I'm saying that right, released Bitcoin in 2008. And described it as purely peer-to-peer electronic money. And this was the first established cryptocurrency. Other people had tried to do this for years before that, but Bitcoin kind of became, the first one. And Bitcoin, this is where it gets kind of confusing and very interesting at the same time. Bitcoin is created through a process called mining. And like Gabe alluded to earlier, mining involves computers solving very complicated problems. And what's interesting is there is 21 million Bitcoins that exist. This is so interesting. And what computers do to mine the Bitcoins is they solve these very intricate math problems, and they find the Bitcoins that are there. And when you find a Bitcoin, that's a big deal. So every time a puzzle gets solved, everybody agrees this person that solved it now owns an additional Bitcoin, and this will keep going until all the Bitcoins in the crypto space have been found. So there's a maximum of 21 million Bitcoins. There's approximately 1.7 million left to be mined, so 91% of them have been issued. Is that crazy to you? I mean, I never knew that. When I started studying this, I was like, what? That's crazy. It's like the golden ticket from Willy Wonka.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Yeah,
Yeah, so
I once, when I was teaching middle school, I had a student who owned, I want to say a couple dozen Bitcoins. This was back, man, probably 2014 or 15. And he had spent like his life savings. He spent like a couple $1,000s on Bitcoins and owned a dozen or two. And I remember overhearing him being mocked by some of his classmates. They were saying, just sell them. You're not going to make any money and all this stuff. And, yeah, he made hundreds of thousands of dollars
I'm sure he did.
off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Bitcoin, when it came out, was kind of, sort of one of those things that people are just like, yeah, that's never going to work. And so a lot of people invested in it in, 2008, 2009. And then recently, that Bitcoin that people purchased back in that, like, quadrupled in value. I mean, just yeah. And so people who may have bought $20 worth of Bitcoin back in 2008, all of a sudden they had a couple $1,000, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. So people started sitting up and taking notice and saying, holy cow, okay, so there might be something to this. And Bitcoin was the only cryptocurrency until about 2011. And then Bitcoin enthusiasts started noticing some flaws in it. They decided to create alternative coins known as altcoins to improve Bitcoin's design for things like speed, security, anonymity, and more. Litecoin was also a currency that came out. But the long and short of it is now there's more than 12,000 cryptocurrencies available.
That's crazy.
And that number, this is crazy to me. That number has more than doubled in the past year. So if we were doing this podcast a year ago, there'd be 6,000 cryptocurrencies available. Now in December of 2022, there are more than 12,000 cryptocurrencies available. And if you are familiar at all with like the market for crypto, it is one of the fastest moving markets. So as of yesterday, putting this together, the top 10 were Bitcoin, Ethereum, Tether, BNB, USD Coin, Binance USD, XRP, Dogecoin, Cardano, and Polygon. So if you're like, what the heck are those? Those are all cryptocurrencies. And as of yesterday, those are the 10 most popular cryptocurrencies. I bet if you checked it this morning, those would no longer be the top 10.
Yeah, it's a very volatile market. Unlike the stock market, I mean, comparatively speaking, it's extremely volatile.
Yeah. It's like the stock market on steroids. And it's very much it could turn bull or bear like that. I mean, it's just
Let's quickly do a fun prediction, just real fast.
Okay.
Bitcoin is currently sitting at $17,820 as I'm recording this on the 13th of December, 2022. Okay. 1 year from now, what do you think it'll be?
Well, it's lost a ton of value in the past 6 months.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Just ballpark it.
Just ballpark it. I'm going to say it gains, let's say 19.
So you 19. Think it'll go up to 19,000 per coin?
I do. I think it's going to fluctuate quite a bit. I think it's going to go down. It's going to go up.
Okay. I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to say 32,000 by this time next year.
Good Lord.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to say.
If you're right,
so,
then anyone listening to this needs to go and
don't invest off of my guessing though. Because I know nothing about Bitcoin. I'm just I think it'd be fun to listen to this a year from now and just and see who's closer. But we're totally going to forget to go back and listen to this a year from now.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, if you're listening to this a year from now, which would be
hang on.
December 23.
Hey Siri, remind me in 1 year to go back and listen to the podcast episode about cryptocurrency. Okay, it says your reminder is set for December 14th.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, shoot me a text that day, and we'll make sure to listen to it.
Okay. Anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll get into kind of how volatile these markets are and how quickly they change. But yeah, there's 12,000 different cryptocurrencies out there. At any given time, the value of one of these could skyrocket, and you put in, you buy $1 worth of this in fiat currency. You take your fiat currency, you invest it in Dogecoin, right? And you got $1 invested in it, and all of a sudden the value of Dogecoin increases by 20-fold. So that $1 now turns to $20, and you're like, holy cow, that's amazing. And so then you put in another, you're excited about it, and then all of a sudden the next 5 minutes you check and Dogecoin has dropped, and you've just lost $30,000, right?
Yeah.
And that sounds super dramatic, but that actually happens all the time. And so that's part of why some economists are a little concerned about the crypto space. It is just so difficult to predict the values of these cryptos, and when you trade these cryptocurrencies, from one day to the next, which one's going to be valuable, which one's going to have any worth at all. And really what helps set the value of cryptocurrency is not just, some random arbitrary stimulus. It's something called blockchain. And so this technology, I've been really trying hard to understand it. And to be honest, Gabe, I understand as much of it as I can, but there's still some parts of it that are fuzzy, which is why, David Fan, if you're listening, you should have called me back. But what a cryptocurrency relies on is technology. And technology like this, blockchain, is decentralized, meaning that every computer in the network confirms the transactions. And so basically what a blockchain is a distributed database or a ledger that's shared among the nodes of a computer network. Does that make sense so far?
No.
Okay,
I mean, yeah, it's
yeah. Okay, so let's say that I had something on my computer that had all the technology that decided how much a currency was valued, right? And I was the only one that could set that. Okay? Blockchain is not like that. Blockchain instead is every computer in the world who is mining Bitcoin stores an encrypted record of every transaction that has taken place. And they all keep a ledger together, right? So it is not one computer, one government, one, World Bank that sets the value of it. Instead, it is distributed then across millions of computers all around the world simultaneously, and all of them have basically this decentralized record of different transactions, and this ledger is what helps set the value and guarantees the fidelity and security of that data. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that helps a little bit. It's like, just thinking though, that, man, this must drive government entities bonkers. Like, especially...
Oh, it does, because they can't regulate it.
They can't regulate it, and they can't tax it, and they can't trace it. So, like entities like the Taliban or ISIS,
yep,
I'm sure utilize it. Yeah, that's really interesting.
We'll get into that in a minute. So basically how it works, as far as I understand, and if you're a blockchain expert like David Fannin, you could call me and clear this up for me. But as far as I understand, when a participant requests a transaction, that transaction is broadcast and distributed to all the computers, known as nodes, on this peer-to-peer network. This transaction gets validated by the network based on predefined consensus algorithms. Again, if you're like whoosh, right over your head, it's okay. Just hang with us, right? That transaction's added to other transactions. A new block of data is given to the ledger. The new block is added to the existing blockchain. It becomes permanent, and you can't change it, and the transaction is complete. So, if that went right over your head, basically what happens is this. You can't really hack the blockchain and change the value because you'd have to hack millions of computers around the world simultaneously, right? So blockchain is the distributed and digital ledger of data that continually adds information in chronological order and creates a record that can't be altered and gets encrypted end to end and helps prevent fraud in unauthorized activity. And that's what sets the value, at least for things like Bitcoin, right? In terms of how that works with other cryptos, I'm not exactly sure, but what I do know is that the blockchain is really the technology that that drives this and kind of drives crypto.
I feel like Miss Frizzle from Magic School Bus needs to take us on a little trip down into the blockchain.
Into the blockchain, yeah.
Right on the Magic School Bus. I get it now. Thank you, Miss Frizzle.
No, thanks, Miss Frizzle. Yeah. And here's the thing too. Like, part of the reason why people are making money hand over fist in this space is because there's people who don't understand this space. And the few people that do understand this space and how it works can really maximize their gains in this space because they're pretty rare. And like, especially when you start talking about like stuff like NFTs and stuff like that, which we've not even gotten into that, but yeah. Is this making the least bit of sense so far? Or are you like
Yeah. So
80%, 70%, 60%? Where are you at?
I'm probably a solid 62.3%. No, it's
yeah, I think I'm there too.
It's really fascinating, but just speaks to the idiocy of currency and in general. It's like, what on earth? Like, we're using binary code and all this stuff to influence people's like wealth and stuff. Like, it's so bizarre. I remember when my brother and I were young. I mean, I'm talking like I was probably 6 and he's probably 8, somewhere in that range. We went out in the woods and we were cutting these sticks and then whittling them and whittling all the bark off these sticks. And they were about 3 inches long, each of them. And we made up this little game, like a little gambling game or something. And we were out there like using the sticks as our points for this game. And I remember my brother we got into a knockdown, drag out, like fist fight over these little sticks that we created, because I felt like he was cheating or something. But I remember we were spinning this thing, and then it was like, okay, here I have to give you 3 of these things. But it was like we both just agreed that these sticks had value, that we just created them out of these trees. But it reminds me of the story, because it's what?
Yeah. So we didn't really put anything in the show notes about NFTs, but do you know what an NFT is?
Isn't that like a piece of art that someone makes?
It's basically a piece of digital art, right? So somebody creates a piece of digital art. It's basically a file, right?
Yeah.
So it's a file of digital art. Like, one of them is like that was super popular. It's like a monkey that looks like he's wearing a baseball hat, right? And then on these different NFT trading sites, people set these astronomical values on these digital pieces of art. When I say astronomical, I'm talking $30,000-$40,000 for a file that contains a picture of a monkey with a baseball hat. I'm not kidding. I'm not making this up.
It's bizarre.
And so what happens is people will go to these spaces and basically, like, in different forums and different online chat spaces, like, basically hype up the value of this, and everybody agrees that this like random picture is worth this astronomical sum of money, and then people start bidding for it and peaking the value up even more and more, and then somebody buys it, and then all of a sudden they're the owner of this 50,000, and then they go and start trading it somewhere else, and people put all this money into it, and it's insane. And I was listening to I think it was This American Life, which is a really cool podcast radio show. And this guy had a website that he had built where he had all these different really unique. I'm trying to understand exactly what it is, but anyway, somebody contacted him and said, that those NFTs are worth, you could be a millionaire. He's like, really? And true to form, he went on this NFT marketplace and sold all these files that he had created back in like 2012 and became a millionaire overnight.
Wow.
So who decides that a picture of a monkey with a baseball hat is $40,000?
It's weird. It's like, as we get further into the fall of man, it's like, is it as things get more and more kind of confusing and convoluted, like I don't know, language and sexuality and that, like, currency is like, back in ancient times, at least, it was tied to copper and silver and gold and all these things. But it's like that is getting more and more convoluted now, and I wonder if that is symptomatic of humans, just being confused and lost, and I don't know.
I think it's always been in our nature to kind of lose our minds with these kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I think we're just seeing it in a different space now with
maybe
online. But so cryptocurrency gains value basically through demand. So if demand goes higher than the amount of that currency available, then the price of the cryptocurrency increases, right? So the whole principle is supply and demand. Some cryptocurrencies have a fixed amount, such as Bitcoin. So they have, like we said earlier, they're being mined, and there's 91% of Bitcoin has been found. So if you have Bitcoin, there is a maximum supply of it, and it's only, it's going up a little bit, but eventually you're going to have the max amount of Bitcoin. I don't know what's going to happen then to that market, but other cryptos like Ether don't have supply limitations. So demand for cryptocurrency depends on a lot of different factors, like how useful those coins are, which businesses accept them. But there's some other factors that go into it. So like mining goes into it. So when a miner wins a newly minted cryptocurrency, they're basically competing for this encrypted number, which is just so funny.
That's really interesting.
Essentially, but mining can be expensive, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Like, it's not, when you think mining, you're like, okay, is it like a coal mine somewhere? No, it's basically like a lot of people will have, these warehouses with all these computers working to try to mine Bitcoin or whatever else. And it's really interesting. So the value of cryptocurrency is also determined by increasing utility. So when a business starts to accept cryptocurrency and there's an investment opportunity, being able to use that in decentralized finance protocols or apps, that kind of helps the value. So basically and this is actually practical. I can actually do something about it, right? Competition also helps increase the value. The popularity in media. I don't know if you remember Elon Musk a couple of years ago started tweeting about Dogecoin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the hashtag, I think, was Dogecoin to the moon.
Yeah, then he went on SNL. I think he got up to 70 cents or something per coin. Then he went on SNL, and then it, like, after that appearance on SNL, I just like, well, no, maybe it was before that appearance, but leading up to it, it just collapsed and went down to like single digits. But yeah, it's that kind of volatility. You're like, wow, people probably gained and lost tens of thousands of dollars over that situation.
Based on an appearance on SNL and a tweet.
Yeah.
So regulation can either help its valuation or can not help its valuation. Some investors appreciate the freedom of no regulation. Other people fear the lack of regulation and security. Again, this is what makes it appealing to some and scary to others because of how volatile it is. And availability. So if the cryptocurrency is more readily available on numerous exchanges, it may become more valuable. So all
with the regulation, I was going to say with the regulation thing, it's like smoking cigarettes. It's like, our government was like, I think half of the politicians were like, oh yeah, it's dangerous. It causes cancers, a lot of side effects and stuff. Let's regulate it and tax it a lot to make it less appealing for people to buy. And let's pump out all these commercials and stuff. And then the other half of the regulators and politicians and lawmakers were like, oh, we can make a ton of money off of taxing, and we could use that to do like basically handouts and stuff like that for our constituents. So it's like, oh, and by the way, yeah, it does have bad side effects. So it's like with cryptocurrencies, like I think regulators are like split like that. They're like, oh, this is very dangerous. And there's the altruistic camp of regulators who are like, we got to regulate this because people are losing tons of money. And then there's like, oh, we got to regulate this because we can make tons of money. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
It's interesting.
Well, and the whole point of why crypto, was invented basically was to try to level the playing field in terms of, getting it decentralized. So it's really in the hands of the people. It's really in the hands of the people who are exchanging it and trading it to set the values of it. It's not some bank somewhere, And really, I think that a lot of this came out. I don't know if you remember Occupy Wall Street and movements like that, probably 10, 12 years ago. I think the seeds of this kind of are in that,
Yeah.
So the benefits of cryptocurrency, it's easy to make transactions. Like, you don't even have to have a bank account. If you got a smartphone, you can get into crypto. You can hop on an app, you can get a hardware wallet, you can get a crypto exchange wallet, and you can start crypto right now, even as we're talking. We've been talking about it, but probably the biggest benefit is it reduces corruption. At least it claims to, in theory, because the power to set the value of the currency is in the hands of the people through blockchain. It's not centralized banks setting the value. Here's a benefit I didn't really think about, and this is really interesting. When we go to Uganda and you exchange like, $100 of U.S. currency, how much do you get back? give the people
not $100. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the exchange rate is.
How many bills do you get back? Like, how big is the stacks of bills?
That's millions and millions. It's tens of millions of shillings that you get back.
Yeah,
and it's
you feel like it's a big baller because you get like stacks and stacks and stacks of bills. Yeah. So like, if a government has to print more money, like the Ugandan shilling, for instance, that devalues its currency. So pretty much anywhere you go, like if you go to Uganda and you exchange, $100 US for that in Ugandan shillings, it's millions and millions and millions of shillings, right? That'll last you for a couple weeks. I mean, truthfully. But you better spend it all while you're there, because if you hop back on the plane and you go anywhere else and you say, hey, will you take a Ugandan shilling? They'll laugh at you. Don't ask me how I know that.
You go down to the Piggly Wiggly and try to buy some eggs with your shillings.
Yeah. No, I'm talking more like, I think I was in Qatar, and I went to the Forex there and said, hey, will you buy back Ugandan shillings, to put them in, I'm trying to remember the currency they use in Qatar. I think it was rials or something. And they just looked at me and they're like, no, that currency is basically useless. Like, that's not worth anything. We're not going to buy it back. So what crypto could do, and this is what, people who are cheerleaders of crypto really want, is that, if cryptocurrencies have a set amount of available, like, that you can't just add more coins and add on to its supply. Like, it, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like a government just, let's just print more money. Like, no, there's only a set amount of Bitcoin, and so it's eliminates that problem with extreme money printing. It's relatively secure in the sense of the blockchain technology makes it relatively secure. The biggest benefit, and one of the reasons like a lot of people get into it, honestly, especially the dude bro space, you can make huge returns. Huge.
Except in China, where it's illegal, or at least.
Is it? I didn't know that.
I think Bitcoin is banned in China, or at least mining it is illegal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can make huge returns on it, and this is one of the reasons why a lot of people are foaming at the mouth to get into the Bitcoin space. The markets are always open, unlike the stock market, and then you can specialize investments. You can even specialize in certain cryptos that are only used in certain games. So if you are someone who's a gamer and you get into that, you can find a currency that is used in a certain game and get really, really into that and do really well with that. People do that a lot. So let's talk about the risks, because it kind of seems like we've been talking about how cool crypto is. And all the dude bros in their affliction shirts are really happy right now. But let's talk about maybe some of the things that aren't mentioned. So, Gabe, I put in the show notes a picture, and
I see it.
You see it. I see it.
Yeah.
None of our folks listening can see it.
Mm.
It's a picture of a Bitcoin mining farm.
Mm.
And Gabe, you want to describe to our listeners what it is you're seeing and what it is you're looking at?
Yeah. It is a huge warehouse with like maybe 1, 2, 3 stories, like 3 stories tall, and it spans maybe 500 feet in length. And on the wall of this warehouse seem to be a lot of like computers.
Yes.
Maybe hard drives and stuff like that. And then there's
thousands and thousands of computers.
There's 2 people looking at one of them, and it looks like they're conversing with one another. When I zoom in, I can tell from how they're talking. They're talking about the Beards and Bible podcast and how we will drive up the price of Bitcoin one day in the future.
Just because of this one episode, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what's called a Bitcoin mining farm. And Bitcoin mining farms are just that. I mean, it's literally what Gabe was saying. It's this warehouse full of literally thousands and thousands and thousands of computers, and they're all working to solve these algorithms to mine more Bitcoin, right? But here is the issue with that. You've got to have electricity to run all those computers. And when you've got very complex supercomputers trying to solve these problems, that takes up a lot of electricity. So Bitcoin, just like all the computers that are involved in the mining process of Bitcoin, that endeavor consumes an estimated 150 terawatt hours of electricity annually. Now, to put that in perspective, that is more than the entire country of Argentina.
Wow.
Just for Bitcoin, right? Because these are Bitcoin mining farms that run thousands of computers 24/7. A lot of them are in places like Russia and in, countries like that. And so, rightly so, there's a lot of people going, okay, so, that's a lot of energy being consumed.
Mm-hmm.
So if we move to crypto, is that going to be a problem? Later? I mean, that's a lot of electricity, right?
Hey, kids, stop all the downloading.
Yeah. So that's kind of a problem, because that's sort of not sustainable in the future, right? Another problem with cryptocurrency is that a lot of people have said that this aids criminal enterprise, because criminals don't prefer to open bank accounts, and you don't have to if you have crypto, right? You can trade crypto between different countries. It's completely borderless. You can get crypto instantly. It's easy to store. It's easy to transfer. So people are seeing criminals use cryptocurrency for things like money laundering, fraud, drug trafficking, human trafficking, child exploitation, dark marketplace trading, cybercrime, and even terrorist funding. So terrorist groups are using crypto because, you don't have to have a third party involved. So one-off sales for things like drugs or digital data, for instance, things like child pornography. Sadly, this is what crypto sometimes gets used for.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's no good. But probably the biggest and the most relevant risk of crypto is that to a lot of people, cryptocurrency feels a lot more like gambling than it does investing. So when you invest in cryptocurrency, essentially you're just placing a bet that enough people will agree that this virtual currency is valuable. And sometimes you might get lucky, and that cryptocurrency you invest in soars in its value, and you can make a lot of money really quick. That you take $500 and you place it in Dogecoin, and then it increases in value tenfold in one day.
Yeah, so cryptocurrency advocates would say, well, the stock market is the same thing. And it is sort of it's similar because you're placing a bet on speculation, and that it
Right.
in essence is kind of like gambling, right? But there are factors that you're taking in. Okay, so I'm looking like at this particular company. This is going to grow in popularity. And I can learn about the company, who its CEO is. Maybe they had a past company that did really well, and so you can educate yourself on that. Whereas I think as cryptocurrency, there's a less of that, less informative factors when it comes to that speculation. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah.
So, it's like there are some. So you might say, well, I know that it's funny because cryptocurrency now, oddly enough, follows the trends of the stock market. It's very tethered to the stock market and what it does, and the trends are within there. But so people will look at the cryptocurrencies and they'll say, well, I think that if the stock market's doing well, it's gonna enter a bear market here. I'm gonna go ahead and buy now, and then so there is a little bit of information, but it's so removed from real good data like the stock market. So yeah, it is closer to this activity that we call gambling than the stock market is, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that and we'll talk about this here in a minute. Like it's not necessarily sinful to invest in cryptocurrency. I'm not saying that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say there's a lot of people that invest in cryptocurrency that don't understand it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what they're just hoping is that they get lucky and what they invested in doubles in value or triples in value or whatever, and they can make what's theirs and get out, while the getting's good or whatever. And I think that's part of the risk of it, and that's part of I think why people are foaming in the mouth at it, because it's exciting, right? You never know what's going to happen. So that's part of the problem with it, and I think that kind of leads us to kind of where we're landing the plane, and that is if you're a Christian, if you're a follower of Jesus, like how do you interact in this space? Like, what do you need to know about it? So, Gabe, what does the Bible say about cryptocurrency? Do we have any verses about Dogecoin or Bitcoin?
To the moon. No. No, not that I can think of. I mean, the Bible is full of verses dealing with money. Mm-hmm. Then it's like, oh man, like what is money nowadays? And
right.
I mean, where we live in a world where the government can just like somehow the government like direct deposited money in my account. They call it a stimulus, and I'm like, well, this is thank you, but that's kind of creepy. That suddenly I just got this money in my account.
Does that mean you could take it out of my account?
Yeah. So I'm like, and that's just ones and zeros, It's just like this digital money that never really passed through my hands or anything. But it's like, oh man, that's weird. It diminishes the value of this notion we call currency to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So I guess to say that when it comes to cryptocurrency, it's like, we use these ones and zeros to provide for our families, and we use these ones and zeros to give to ministries and organizations that are doing the kingdom matters, providing for orphans and widows and you name it. So we should be careful. Therefore, we should be careful with these ones and zeros. And be very prudent when investing, because you have a lot of proverbs here which are really good talking about money, which we could extend to this ones and zeros stuff right nowadays. But if I could read a couple of them, I mean, there's like a wise man saves for the future. Money little by little grows, Proverbs 13:11. Diligent hands bring wealth, Proverbs 10:4. All hard work leads to profit, Proverbs 14:23. So that right there is important, because we are so enticed by this, like, I want to make a quick profit. And many people get into cryptocurrencies and they're like, I'm going to put $10,000 of my grandparents' inheritance in this cryptocurrency, this altcoin, and expect a huge return in a month. And I think that's really, really dangerous and unwise. Sure. It's like hard work leads to profit. So I like Dave Ramsey says, forget all the gimmicks, forget all these like things. He's like, one of the surest ways to make money is to get a job and earn a paycheck.
Yep.
I think that's really wise, But Proverbs 21:5, steady plodding brings prosperity. Proverbs 28:20, warning about it's basically a warning about trying to get rich quick. So we have to look at money, even though sometimes our money comes to us in weird ways, right? Through a stimulus check or through a tax return or something. It's like we have to look at that as if it's not ours.
Sure.
Because we are bond servants of Christ, and we have to look at those ones and zeros and prayerfully consider where we put those ones and zeros, because we could use those to really improve our family tree and the quality of life that our descendants experience, but also we could use it to expand the kingdom of God. So,
yeah, absolutely.
The ultimate is when Jesus catches a fish, right, and they pull the what coin was it? The
drachma.
Was it the drachma out of the fish's mouth, right? And
pay the temple tax,
to pay the temple tax. And in a way, he's saying this is how absurd money is. Not absurd, but like this is how fictitious.
Like it's a necessary resource, but it's not. It's just that. It's just a resource, right? I mean, it's just like anything else, And God's like, yeah, that doesn't. Jesus is like, yeah, go cast your line on this side of the boat. Go catch fish. You see in that fish's mouth, there's a drachma. Now pay the tax. Just use the money for what you got to use it for, and don't.
Yeah, so he's not saying no, just to avoid the tax. He's saying let's pay it, but I'm going to show you how silly money is. It's fascinating.
Right. Yeah. So I don't think if you listen to this and you're like, okay, Josh and Gabe, what is the answer? What is the verse? Is cryptocurrency sinful, or is it the best thing ever, and God's going to use crypto to make Christians rich? I think that's like something may not be necessarily sinful, but that does not mean it is wise. Right? Like, is it sinful for me to... This is a dumb example. I don't know. Is it sinful for me to just like... Okay, I don't even want to use that example. Let me say this. If you are thinking of investing in cryptocurrency, I think it is wise for you to ask yourself a couple of questions, right? The first is this. Do I really understand how it works? Or am I just trying to take a gamble, even if I don't understand it, so that maybe I can get rich quick?
Yeah.
And if that's kind of where you are, I would say, like, that's a no-go, man. Like,
yeah.
Especially that scenario you presented earlier. You got $10,000 from inheritance. You're thinking, let me spend it on Dogecoin, and then maybe I'll get lucky, and maybe it'll be $500,000 in a month. Or maybe it'll be $5 in a month.
Yeah.
But if you don't understand how it works, you don't understand this market at all, that is a really, really, really poor stewardship of what God has given you, right?
Yeah. I think, you could wisely budget a little bit of your monthly income to investing in, whether that be the stock market or precious metals or
real estate,
cryptocurrency. Yeah, I mean, you could do that, absolutely. And I recommend doing that. And a lot of Christian financial advisors recommend doing that.
Sure.
But first and foremost is giving to your church, providing for your family, right? And making sure you have a reliable transportation to and from work and all that is the ultimate priority in your life. But if you have money left over and you're like, I've learned a lot about this particular stock or this particular company or this particular cryptocurrency, I fully understand it, and I've prayed about it, I'm going to put money in on this, and I think see where it goes. So,
yeah. But I think it's Dave Ramsey that said, never, ever, ever invest in something you don't understand. Right?
Yeah.
So I would say if you're thinking about investing in cryptocurrency and this is the only podcast you've listened to about it, you need to do about 100 hours more homework because we've barely even scratched the surface, and we don't even really understand how cryptocurrency works. So don't take our word for it. We're trying to wrap our brains around this, right? Second question I think we need to ask ourselves if we're thinking about investing it is this: why? Why? Am I wanting to invest in it because I really want to be a wise steward of my resources and provide for myself and my family and be a blessing to other people? Or do I just want to get caught up in this rat race of trying to get rich quick? And that is a very, very, very tough question to ask ourselves, but I think it's one that you have to ask yourselves. So like we said earlier, the Bible talks about money as kind of like a resource, right? Like a brick could be used to make a church or a school or a hospital. Or I could use a brick to smash Gabe over the head with it, right? I would never do that. But there's nothing inherently evil or righteous about that brick. It's just a resource. But the Bible is very, very clear that if we have a unhealthy desire for that resource, if we are in love with money, like that's a really, 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 really dangerous thing. Let me just read you two scriptures. Matthew 13:22, Jesus is telling the parable of the sower, and he talks about the seed, which represents the word of God, gets sown among thorns. And this is the man who hears the word, and the worry of the world and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, and it becomes unfruitful. So basically Jesus is saying, like, if you're in love with getting rich, you're not going to have room in your heart for the word of God and the truth of the gospel. There's just be no room. Because Jesus also said no man can serve two masters. He'll either love the one and hate the other. So you can't serve both God and money. You got to pick one. So if you're in love with getting rich, then go do that. But don't try to follow Jesus and try to get rich. You can't do that. 1 Timothy 6:8-9 says, if we have food and covering, with these we shall be content. This next part is really interesting. But those who want to get rich, let me read it again. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a snare and many foolish and harmful desires, which plunge men into ruin and destruction. I mean, gosh, you think of all the things like people who are, running drug cartels and people who are engaging in black market exchanges of internet child pornography, all these awful, terrible things. And what drives so much of it, especially human trafficking, things like that, it's the love of money. It's people who want to get rich. And then even on the other side of it, people who lose their life savings in 5 minutes because they invested in a cryptocurrency they didn't understand, and they're plunged into ruin and destruction. Well, what drove them to do that? No, they just wanted to get rich quick. So the Bible says if you want to get rich, you're going to fall into temptation. You're going to be tempted to do some really stupid stuff. And it's a trap. And these foolish and harmful desires will plunge you into ruin and destruction. So you need to check your heart and ask, do you just want to get rich? Because if that's where your heart is, man, don't lie to yourself. You can't serve both God and money. That's what Jesus said, right? And that's a tough word, I think, for us as Americans, because the American dream is all about us getting rich.
Dollar bill.
Dollar bills, y'all. Last question is this. Is there something else I should be doing with my time or my money? Does all the time and energy invested into following crypto markets support my life's purpose? So our life's purpose is not to get rich. Our life's purpose is not to retire by the time we're 40. No, it's to love God with all our heart and to love our neighbors ourselves. And if all this time, all this money, all this energy, all these sleepless nights, all this waking up to check our crypto market, if that's not contributing to us loving God with all our heart, then yeah, you probably shouldn't do it. Right?
Yeah.
So is there a way somebody could responsibly, in a God-honoring way, invest in crypto?
Yeah, I think so. I would just do it extremely cautiously. And I mean, like I said, like the middle school kid, like that I taught, I mean, he potentially had hundreds of thousands of dollars at his fingertips, and it's like, you know, it could be, but you got, I mean, just depends on when you catch that wave, I suppose. But yeah, I would say do it carefully and responsibly with great moderation and wisdom. But,
absolutely.
You know, to quote the notorious B.I.G., I don't know what they want from me. It's like the more money we come across, the more problems we see.
You can't quote a lot of that song, I would say, on this podcast.
No, I cannot.
Yeah, that explicit content.
That's about all I can quote. That's about it.
Yep. Man. Well, I would also say, and I said this earlier, if you want to get in crypto, you need to do a ton more homework than just this podcast, because we're a bunch of dummies and we don't understand this space. So find somebody who does, like David Fannin. And David Fannin, call me back if you're listening. Please. Yeah, if you got any questions or comments, feedback, suggestions, any of that stuff, send us
David
an email.
Fannin was probably like, I'm not going to talk to Josh about crypto because I don't want my name in the podcast in reference to crypto. And how many times have you dropped poor David Fannin's
like 30 times? Yeah.
He's like, my reputation is shattered.
Yeah, oh no, he's going to get world famous because of this for all the wrong reasons. Hey, also, and I mentioned this at the top of the episode, we've got our From the Mailbag episode coming up for the beginning of the year. If you have a topic or a question or something you are wanting us to address, or any clarification from stupid stuff we've said on episodes over the year, send us an email and we will start putting together that the next month or so. Hope everybody has a wonderful and safe holiday season and a blessed end of the year, and we look forward to seeing you guys in the new year. Take care.